Hello, students. Today we are here to discuss the Class 10 Test Series Set B Social Science paper. So let's get started. Starting with section A, that is the MCQ section. Question number 1. Which one of the following statements is true about nation states? Option A. Citizens share a common sense of shared identity or history. Option B. Nation state is a state ruled by one absolute ruler. Option C. Commonness is forged through linguistic factor only. Option D. Nation states are directly ruled by the people and based on heterogenization of society. And the correct answer is option A. Citizens share a common sense of shared identity. Where collective belonging is there, that is what is called as a nation state. So it's not ruled by one linguistic group or it's not ruled by one absolute ruler, but it is about a common sense of shared identity or history. So that's the correct answer. Question number 2. Arrange the following events of German unification in increasing order of their date of occurrence. So, looking at the events, number 1, Frederick William IV rejected the demand of all German National Assembly. 2, the Frankfurt Parliament convened in the Church of St. Paul. 3, Kaiser William I of Prussia was proclaimed as the new German emperor. And 4, three wars over 7 years with Austria, Denmark, and France were fought. So, looking at the events according to the date of sequence, the first event was the Frankfurt Parliament, which convened in the Church of St. Paul, where the German National Assembly was formed and they drafted a constitution. Second is when Frederick William IV rejected, disbanded this assembly, and then Prussian Chief Minister Otto von Bismarck took over this leadership and fought three wars over 7 years with Austria, Denmark, and France. And lastly, Kaiser William I of Prussia was proclaimed as the new German emperor. So option C is the correct sequence given. Question number 3. Find the incorrect option. Proto-industrial system was a part of network of commercial exchanges controlled by merchants, the system under which goods were produced in factories, and D, a system which supplemented income of people of countryside. To find out incorrect option, let's relate to it. A part of network of commercial exchanges. Yes, proto-industrialization was a system of commercial exchanges. It was controlled by the merchants, and it actually supplemented the income of the people in the countryside because apart from farming, agriculture, they could now practice and participate in this production, which was not done in factories. So this is the wrong option. So the correct answer, find the incorrect option. The answer over here is the system under which the goods were produced in factories is a wrong statement. Moving on to the next one. Question number 4. There are two statements marked as assertion and reason. Mark your answer as per the codes provided below. Assertion: the production of handwritten manuscripts could not satisfy the ever increasing demand for books. And reason: Chinese paper reached Europe via Silk Route. Looking at the assertion, the production of handwritten manuscripts could not satisfy the ever increasing demand is correct. Reason: Chinese paper reached Europe via Silk Route is also correct. Both assertion and reason are true, but reason is not the correct explanation of assertion. So that is our correct answer. Moving on to question number 5. Complete the given table with the correct information with regard to National Park. Corbett National Park is situated in the state of Uttarakhand. Uh, Madhya Pradesh, which national park is there in Madhya Pradesh? So it is not Kaziranga, but it is Bandhavgarh. And Sundarban, West Bengal, is the state where it is situated. So D is the correct answer of the table. Question number 6. Which of the following are perfectly matched? List 1 and list 2. 1919 Bardoli Satyagraha, 1920 Khilafat, 1921 Satyagraha against Rowlatt Act, 1928 firing at prisons near Raebareli. The correct date is option B, Khilafat movement, which was carried on in 1920, and then Khilafat and non-cooperation, that means Khilafat and Swaraj, together came as non-cooperation movement, which was adopted in 1920s. Question number 7. Look at the table below carefully and answer the question. Though the GDP growth rate is increasing over the years, still the growth rate in agriculture has been decelerating. Which of the following is the most significant reason of the situation? So, looking at the figure, GDP growth rate is increasing over the years, but still, growth rate in agriculture has been decelerating. The reason behind it, let's look at the options: increase in import duties, reduction in public investment, increase in subsidy on fertilizers, alternative employment opportunities are decreasing. The reduction or a deceleration of agriculture and its growth rate is actually because of the reduction in the public investment in agricultural sector. Question number 8, again assertion and reason. The arrangements made in Sri Lanka helped to avoid civic strife between two major communities and a possible division of the country on linguistic lines. The example of Sri Lanka shows us that if a majority community wants to force its dominance over others and refuses to share power, it can undermine the unity of the country. Looking at the assertion, arrangement made in Sri Lanka did not avoid civic strife, but it caused the civic strife, in fact, the civil war of Sri Lanka. So, assertion is wrong. Reason here tells us that that was an example where the people got to know that they can undermine the unity of the country. That is also wrong. So the correct answer is both A and R are false. Question number 9 now. Match the following keywords from column X with their explanation in column Y. Gram Sabha, Gram Panchayat, Zilla Parishad, and Mandals. Let's look at the explanation that are given in column Y. Gram Sabha. So Gram Sabha, it reviews the performance of the Gram Panchayat. That's the correct answer for Gram Sabha. Then Gram Panchayat. Gram Panchayat is the decision-making body of the entire village. Zilla Parishad. Zilla Parishad is mandals in a district coming together, or which we call the Panchayat Samitis or blocks in a district coming together to constitute the Zilla Parishad. And lastly, mandals. Mandals are nothing else but the gram panchayats that are grouped together, also called as block or taluka. So the correct answer over here for this match the following question is option A. Then 10th question. Identify the person who was Prime Minister of Italy, a top businessman, owns a bank and football club, leader of Forza Italia, and owner of TV channels. The options are Renan, Minocchio, Kastwecker, and Berlinski. The correct answer here is Berlinski. Question number 11. Consider the following statements on parties. Political parties do not enjoy much trust among the people. Parties are often rocked by scandal involving top party leaders. Third, parties are not necessary to run governments. Which of the statements given above are correct? Looking at the statement. Statement number one, Political parties do not enjoy much trust amongst people is the correct option. Second, parties are often rocked by scandals involving top party leaders is also true. Third, parties are not necessary to run governments is not a correct statement. So our correct answer is option B. Question number 12. Which of the following is a regional party? Bharatiya Janata Party is a national party. Bahujan Samaj Party is also a national party, and Communist Party of India Marxist is also a national party. There are seven major national parties in the country, and the rest of the three are amongst them. So it's only option C, Dravid Munnetra Kazhagam, that is DMK, which is the regional party of Tamil Nadu. Question number 13. The table below shows the estimated number of workers in India in the organized and unorganized sector. Read the table carefully and answer the following questions given below. Primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. The figures are given in the table, and the question is which is the most important sector that provides most jobs to the people? Looking at the employment figures, it is still the primary sector, which is the largest employer amongst all other sectors. So, primary sector is the correct answer. Question number 14. Identify the biggest problem faced by the small farmers during cultivation season. Option A. Lack of government support and subsidies. Option B. Debt trap from the money lenders. Option C. Small piece of land. And option D. Lack of using modern mode of cultivation. So modern mode of cultivation are surely not required by the small farmers. Lack of government support and subsidies, they do not get any government support and subsidy from the government. That's true. So that is not a problem, but the problem is surely the problem of capital. And for this capital, they depend on informal sectors. And finally, they are dragged into debt trap from the money lenders. So option B is your correct answer. Students, here you will find in MCQs very similar points or similar options. You have to find out which is the very correct one, very accurate one. There will be very similar and very same points, which you may find that all the 4 points, all the four options are correct, but you have to find the accurate answer for it. Question number 15. Foreign trade gives more number of choices to whom? Producers, sellers, buyers, and government. It's an easy one. It is surely the buyers. Question number 16. Read the information given below and select the correct option. Harita attends her office from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. She gets her salary regularly at the end of every month. In addition to the salary, she also gets provident fund and other facilities as per the rules laid down by the government. Select the employment sector in which Harita is working. The correct option over here is organized sector because the pay is regular, there is job security, the working hours are also okay, she is getting PF and other facilities, and the employer is following the rules of the government. So it is surely organized sector. Question number 17, again, identify the sector. It deals with raw materials and their production. It includes all those activities, the end purpose of which consists exploiting natural resources, also called agricultural and allied sector services. So it is no doubt the primary sector that is producing or dealing with the raw material, that is exploiting the natural resources and agricultural allied services. Question number 18. Which of the following aspects of Bismarck is known as in this image? His democratic nature, his violent and strict nature, his sympathetic nature, and none of the above. So he's surely having a hunter in his hand, and it shows his violent and strict nature. That's the correct answer. He was a very disciplined man. 19th, infant mortality rate refers to the number of children that die Before the age of 1 year as a proportion to 1,000 live births in a year. Before the age of 5 years as a proportion to 1,000 live births in a year. Before the age of 1 year as a proportion to 100 live births in that particular year, or out of 1,000 live births in that particular year. Whenever we are talking about infant, an infant is the child which is below the age of 1 year. So 0 to 12 months is the age of an infant. So as that is the age of an infant, the appropriate answer over here is A, because before the age of 1 year, it is according to the proportion of 1,000 live birth in a year. So A is your correct answer. 20th question. Modern forms of money include which of the following? A. Currency notes and coins, cowrie shells and stones, gold and silver coins, and grains and cattle. So, currency notes and coins is our correct answer. Let's start section B, which are two marker question. Question number one. What do you know about WTO? Write about it in brief. So, World Trade Organization, that is WTO, is the only global international organization which deals with the rules of trade amongst the nations. So, it drafts the rules for its member nations and implements it. The goal is to help the producers of goods and services, exporters and importers to conduct their business. So, this is a firm, this is an institute which works for the coordination of trade, for the implementation, liberalization of trade. WTO works for the liberalization of trade, thus becoming a medium for the traders, for the exporters, for the importers. Apart from this, you can write any other relevant point which is true in regard to WTO. Question number 22. Describe any three main features of alluvial soil found in India. So alluvial soil, it is found in northern plains. It is very fertile soil in nature. Alluvial soil is mainly used for production of food grains. Various proportion of sand, silt and clay is present in the soil. Apart from this, you can mention any other point that is relevant with regard to alluvial soil. You can write about the different types of alluvial soil, alluvial deposit, that is new alluvium, old alluvium. You can write about the region where it is found also. Question number 23. What do you mean by the term gender division? So gender division, this question is from Gender, Caste and Religion. The gender division or gender gap describes disparity. Disparity, the difference between the different genders in society, and in turn, the labor market and the business world. What does that include? That includes inequality of opportunity. Inequality of opportunity, there are certain jobs which are not given to women. Then inequality of pay, where we know that the women are the ill-paid workers. Progression and benefits too. So this is what we consider to be the gender division. Question number 24. In recent years, how our markets have been transformed? Explain with examples. So the answer for this, how markets have been transformed, is we can talk about the globalization, of course. So how the markets have changed with the coming up of globalization. After the advent of globalization, many changes have occurred in the Indian markets. The various transformations in the Indian market in recent years are: there is availability of wide range of choice, variety of products and services. The quality of the products are better now. Good quality of products are actually now available at low cost because there is a competition amongst the companies, and we can easily avail the latest product with advanced technology because globalization has surely helped in technological advancement too. You can give examples over here, and the products are also affordable and accessible. In this question, you can write any other relevant point with regard to how markets have been transformed. There is an or question over here. How has improvement in technology stimulated the globalization process. In this particular answer of technology, make sure that you stick to technological advancement. Make sure you stick to what improvements have been brought about because of technology. So, because of technology, we all know that products have been delivered very fast now. Telecommunication service, internet service is again helpful because it has influenced globalization. It has enabled globalization actually. Now we are able to contact one person from the other country or state by telecommunication facility. Satellite communication devices are also used rapidly. These services like satellite communication, telecommunication, transport, these are the services which have actually made globalization possible where one company is having production across the world. So any other relevant point which is with regard to technology can be written over here. Section C, three-marker question. Question number 25. Explain any three measures taken by the British administration to repress the movement started against the Rowlatt Act. The question here is demanding you about how Britishers repressed the movement which was actually started against the Rowlatt Act. Following were the measures taken by British administration. So we learned that with regard to the Indians opposed the Rowlatt Act, that there was a reason because they believed that this is a black law, that it gave enormous power to the British government to arrest or detain any person without any trial for 2 years. What was the reaction over this? What did the people do? And how the British repressed this? Let's see. Local leaders were arrested during this time because as Indians did hartals rallies, all the transport and communication had come to a standstill. And that's why the local leaders were arrested during this time. Gandhiji was banned the entry in Delhi. They were firing on peaceful processions that was carried out. And now, finally, as transport and communication came to a standstill, martial law was imposed where General Dyer came to power. So these are some of the points which talks about the repression of British government against the Rowlatt Act movement. Question number 26. Briefly describe major seaports of southern India. Also mention their main characteristic. Now, this particular question is of 3 marks, but I have given all the points so that you can write any three of it. Any three of it can be written out of these. As we are asked to describe major seaports of southern India, you can name all of them and write features of any 3 to 4 ports. So any three ports can be explained over here as this question carries 3 marks. So Mumbai port, it is the biggest port, which is also known as Jawaharlal Nehru Port, which was built in order to decongest Mumbai port. Marangao Port in Goa is an important iron ore exporting port in the country. New Mangalore port exports iron ore, which is concentrated in the Kudremukh mines. So, New Mangalore port is helpful in exporting iron ore. Kochi port is located in extreme southwestern part of the country. Tuticorin port, it is in Tamil Nadu. Chennai, it is the oldest artificial ports of the country, next to Mumbai. In terms of trading activities, it is a very busy port. Vishakhapatnam Port, which is the deepest landlocked port. Kolkata, which is an inland riverine port formed by the river. Paradweep is in Orissa, which is again important for iron ore export. And Kandla in Kutch is the first port developed after independence to ease the pressure on Mumbai port. So these are all the ports given, where they are located, in which state they are located, and how are these ports important. For each and every port it is given. You can write at least 3 or 4 for 3 marks because this is a 3 marker question. Moving on to the next question, question number 27. What do you know about language policy of India? Describe in short. So, Hindi and English are the official languages of India according to Article 343 of the Indian Constitution. So, if we talk about 2022, by 2022, a total of 22 languages were recognized as official. uh, then you can write about the language policy of India, which we have studied in federalism chapter. So according to the Indian Constitution, there is no language that has got the status of national language. There are 22 different languages which have been recognized as scheduled languages or official languages. And we are still continuing with the use of English, which was earlier prohibited in 1965, but we still continued with the use of English. Looking at the southern states, which were not that comfortable with the use of Hindi. So nonetheless, following several violent protests, there were protests when the use of English was banned. Government of India issued an order making it compulsory the use of Hindi and English as official languages. Majorly, Hindi and English are used as official languages, and the states or the state governments do their official work in their official languages. That means their state languages. So if it is Maharashtra, it is Marathi, in which documentations or government notices have been carried out. So you can write any other relevant point with regard to language policy in this. Again, 27th or question. Write the number of countries having federal political system. What is the total population of these countries out of the world population? If federalism works only in big countries, why did Belgium adopt it? So, looking at the count of countries, only 25 of world's 193 countries have federal political system. And looking at the figures of the citizens, 40% of the world population is there under a federal structure. Now, talking about Belgium. Belgium is surely a small country. Belgium is a European country with Brussels as its capital. Though its size is not as big as India, it has adopted a federal form of government. Now, why has it adopted a federal form of government? Because it is its ethnic groups have variations. It's a multilingual country. Its population is linguistically diverse. How? There are French speaking, there are Dutch speaking, there are German speaking people in the country. And to accommodate all these different ethnic groups in the country, it surely took over a federal structure. The opposite of federal structure is unitary form of government. If unitary form of government, the power will get concentrated. If federal form of structure is there, that divides the power further, that follows the power sharing principle, which was really required so that Belgium could accommodate these differences. So it was important for Belgium to accommodate these differences so that political instability and violent conflict do not occur in the country. Each and every ethnic groups get their share of power, and the country ensures peace and political stability. Question number 28. What is meant by national development? Give your own opinion. National development. National development refers to the development of a country which include what? Which includes that there should be a fair and just path for all. There should be a pollution-free environment for all. It should benefit a large number of people and not just a small group of people. There should be increase in per capita income in such a way that the gap between the rich and the poor be minimum. This is what we talk about in the socialist ideal. Citizens should be provided better health facilities, better educational facilities also. This is what we refer to as national development, as this question is an open-ended question where give your opinion is asked. You can write any other relevant point that you mean by national development. What are your ideas? What do you think about what is national development? You can write any other relevant point on your own. Name the sector that is the largest employer in India. Why does this sector produce only a quarter of GDP? This question is asking you about largest employer in India, which sector is still the largest employer in India, and then also giving a reason that this particular sector is not the largest producer of GDP, but it is actually producing only a quarter of GDP. So, why is it so? We all know that the largest employer is still the primary sector. So, the primary sector is the largest employer in India. This sector produces only a quarter of the GDP, still only a quarter of the GDP. Let's find out why. Productivity in the primary sector is very, very low. So, because the productivity is low, the use of outdated means of production is there, and that's why the productivity is very, very low. We still are running on such machines, such methods which are primitive. Second, land holdings are very small. Looking at the agricultural sector, as the land holdings are small, it surely affects the production. This cannot produce desired output if the land holdings are small. Primary sector lacks modern irrigation facilities. Modern farming methods are still lagging. How can we tell about it? Irrigation facilities, they are not dependent on irrigation facilities or they are not providing irrigation facilities, but most of the farmers in India still have a dependence on monsoon. The government has not been able to provide an effective system of financing and transportation in rural areas. Financing is still an issue for the farmers as they have to arrange capital for their agricultural season and they have a problem with transportation. Our rural areas are still not connected with all season roads. Difficulty in accessing the market facilities and absence of alternative employment in rural areas is still an issue. So it's just producing a quarter of GDP. You can write about any other relevant point in the primary sector, which tells us about that it is a largest employer but still not producing enough to contribute to the GDP. Starting with section D, 5 marker questions. Starting with section D, these are the 5 marker questions. Question number 30. Explain the impact of print culture on the religious reforms in India during the 19th century. Talking about the religious reforms, first, women. Let's talk about the women in India. As the spread of print culture was seen in India, there were many women who participated and tried to bring about these reforms. What are religious reforms? What are social reforms? Reforms is something which is bringing about a change in the society, breaking the stereotypes, breaking the monotonous practices of the society, and bringing about some change for good. So let's look at the women. The spread of print culture in 19th century in India brought about educational reforms for women that was very important. The liberal husbands and fathers, they educated their women folk at home or sent them to school when the schools were open for women. Women who had been restricted to a domestic life for generations now found a new medium of entertainment through reading books. They also began to write articles and journals. So they not just became readers, but they became a wonderful writer also. In favor of women's education and literacy, some even wrote books. You need to mention some of the women writers over here, like Rajsundari Devi, who wrote the first full-length autobiography known as Amar Jiban, first full-length autobiography published in 1876. Conservatives believed that education and reading would make women widows, would corrupt them, as it was believed by the Hindus as well as Muslims. Many women learned to read and write in the secrecy, as Rajsundari Devi. She learned to read and write in the secrecy of her kitchen and such traditionalist environment. So they basically learn to read and write in secret. They learn to read and write in the traditional environment. belonging to the conservative families. So these examples you can give example of Pandita Ramabai, you can give example of any other woman writer too over here. Talking about the poor now, how poor contributed to the print culture. So they were benefited by the spread of print culture as availability of low-priced books were there in the market now. Public libraries were opened by people, so now they could, after their day's work, they could go and read books. Enlightening essays were written against caste discrimination during this time, and a strong message against injustices was given. These were read by people across the country on the encouragement and support of social reformers. Overworked factory workers set up libraries. These libraries were helpful for their education. Some of them even published their own books, like Kashi Baba, who wrote Chote aur Bade Ka Sawal. Also, one of the Kanpur mill worker who wrote Sachi Kavitaएं. Then, lastly, talking about the reformers, social reformers, print culture's popularity was an advantage for social and religious reformers as they could now spread their opinions through newspapers, books across the masses. These ideas could then be debated upon by different groups of people. Reformist ideas were put forward in local, everyday languages of the common people so as to create a wider platform for the same. Here in this answer, you can write about the opposition that they did against the practices, the evil practices in the society, like sati, that is widow immolation, monotheism, Brahminical priesthood. They opposed all these practices which were done by the Hindu Orthodoxy society. You can also mention about the reformers who fought against the caste system. So this will be also included in the answer. Apart from these points, you can write about Hindu orthodoxy. You can write about the people who oppose the caste system. These examples can be mentioned in the answer. Question number 30 or question. Describe any five strategies developed by the printers and publishers in the 19th century. Question number 30. Describe any five strategies developed by the printers and publishers in the 19th century to sell their products. So, printers and publishers they adopted various measures to sell their products in the market. For example, in 19th century, periodicals were serialized uh, for famous novels, which gave birth to a particular way of writing novels. Example you can write Charles Dickens' Pickwick Papers was serialized in a magazine. Magazines were attractive to the readers as they were illustrated and they were cheap too. The readers bought these magazines very eagerly. Second, 1920, England. If we talk about England, the popular works which were there, they were sold in cheap series, also known as the shilling series, which was easily bought by everyone. Third, dust cover was something introduced at that time, also known as the book jacket, that was introduced to make the book look more attractive to the readers. Fourth, books were printed in the offset press. Now, this could print more than six colors at a time. To sustain buying during the Great Depression, publishers changed certain strategies, like they started printing cheap paperback editions, and this really became a big hit for the people because now, even if there was great economic depression, people could actually buy these cheaper books. It was affordable to them to buy these books. So you can write these strategies of the printers, of the publishers. In addition to this, one more point is where literacy rate was not high, they started uh, printing the books along with the pictures also. Moving on to question number 31. Describe the hazards of mining or describe the impact of mining on the health of the miners and on the environment. What is the position of miners in India? So the answer for this is the mining activity is surely injurious to the health of miner and environment. First point, the dust and noxious fumes inhaled by the miners that causes pulmonary diseases that makes them vulnerable to the diseases. The risk of collapsing mine roofs is there that causes death. Inundation of fires in coal mines are a constant threat to the miners. There are blasts taking place in the mines that is risky. The water sources in the region get contaminated due to mining. Dumping of waste and slurry that leads to degradation of land and soil. Increase in stream and river pollution too. Mining activity also causes a lot of dust, which again causes the land degradation. Any other point which is relevant to the hazards, relevant to the damage that is caused to environment can be considered over here. Question number 31, again, or question. How can biogas solve the energy problem, mainly in rural India? Give your suggestions. So biogas can surely solve the energy problem in rural area if it is properly organized. Looking at the points. First one, it produces gas having higher thermal efficiency as compared to charcoal or as compared to kerosene. It provides a way of optimum utilization. We are utilizing the animal and the plant waste. So the waste is also getting less. We are managing this waste. It produces enriched organic manure. So manure is also produced in the meanwhile as we are producing the gas. It can supplement or even replace the chemical fertilizers or the chemical inputs that are used in the rural area. It burns smoothly and does not leave any much residue behind. It is easy to produce, easy to store, easy to handle and transport. Any suggestion, as the question is asking you about your suggestions, you can write any suggestions. Let's read the suggestions over here. Government should provide monetary assistance to people in rural areas. This can help them support or invest into such projects. Also, awareness must be created for using alternative sources of energy. People should know about what biogas is and how easily they can get the benefits of biogas too. So, awareness is required, certain capital or certain facility from the government is also required to initiate the same. Any other suggestion, if you have, you can add on into it. But these 5 points are necessary in the answer. Question number 32. How is democratic government known as responsive government? Explain with an example. That's a 5 marker question now. The question about responsive government. Let's look at the first point. The institution of democratic politics is practiced in different ways in various countries today. These countries have formal institutions, they hold regular election, they guarantee rights to the citizens also. However, the very practice of democracy differs from country to country because of the differences of the internal mechanism, social, economic, and political conditions specific to each country's society. Thus, the democratic government in each country needs to be responsive. How can it be responsive? It has to be responsive to the varying needs of their society. And looking at India, India is surely a diverse country. So there are varying needs of the population too. In a country like India, democracy provides opportunities to the people who can not only participate in the process of governance, but at the same time, they can ensure responsiveness. There should be an accountability of the government. There should be a legitimacy of the government too. So at every step, we are looking at the action of the government. So government's action at every step through democratic mechanism, and we are actually keeping a check on the government as we have been provided with right to information, that is RTI, where we can question on any particular law, any particular bill passed by the government, any particular decision taken by the government can be questioned by us. And as citizens have RTI, we will surely get an answer, reason, explanation from the government with regard to the decision that was taken. India is an appropriate example of unity in diversity. a government which is of the people, by the people, and for the people. It has been successful in uniting the country under one umbrella of democracy and has also taken the care of needs of varying communities and groups. As I said, India is a diverse country. The government of India has been responsive to the needs of the varying communities, varying groups in the country. As example is asked, we can write about the example too. In its true spirit, has emerged as the most progressive form of governance, which is constantly concerned with the betterment of well-being of the members of the society. This has been ensured by representatives of people at various levels of the government who have time and again responded to the needs of the people effectively. Here an example with the respond to the needs of population. You may write about how the government is working for the poor and the needy. You may write about how the government is working for the depressed classes uh, or the Dalits. We can also write about how the government is responding to the needs of women as a social group too. So how it is addressing the needs of these different social groups, we can write about it as an example. Question number 32 or question. The ideals, principles, and norms of democracy require certain conditions to be implemented. Explain the statement. Now, this is an open-ended question where you've been asked about the norms of democracy or principles of democracy that are needed, that are to be implemented. So, democracy is a rule of the people by the people. You can explain over here what a democratic government means. It is the government where people choose their representatives, and these representatives carry on the work of administration. Some conditions are required. Why are they required? They are really necessary for the implementations of the ideals and principles. So these conditions are for an ideal democracy. Now, this is an open-ended question. The points may vary person to person, student to student also, but they should be relevant with regard to the question. For an ideal democracy, both rulers and the ruled should be responsible. Equally, the citizens are responsible. The rulers should take up policies for welfare of the people since they have been chosen by the people. The rulers should not misuse their powers or public money. The people who ruled have to make the right choice of representatives. For this, they have to be aware of the policies of the government. They should be aware of the political competition. They should be aware of whom they are choosing. They should be aware about their leaders too, so that they can make the right choice. The people must understand their responsibilities along with their rights, and they should use their rights in a proper manner. We should use our rights as our power so that we can know our government better. We can keep a check on our government too. Citizens will be able to limit the power of the government only when they know their power, when they know their rights. Only then the government will not misuse its power. So this is the answer. You can write any other relevant point in this too. Question number 33. How do SHGs act to provide a platform for women to address their various social issues? Self-help group are the informal, voluntary association of people who come together to solve their problems, their common problems, such as bringing improvement in living conditions. So you can write about the benefits that SHG provides. So it's a group of 10 to 20 females who have joined together for solving their social issues. They help themselves ensure a better standard of living. They help themselves becoming economically self-reliant or economically independent. SSG for Women helped them in solving the major issues faced by them, like lack of power and lack of opportunity, lack of funding many a times, lack of knowledge too. So it helps in bringing social security, economic security, new learning with the group, and it ensures new earning opportunities too as they organize themselves into employment also and bring independence to them. Or question number 33. Self-help groups enjoy a lot of freedom in their functioning. Explain. So self-help groups help in making particularly women self-reliant financially. They regularly gather up and get the platform for discussing on issues such as domestic violence, health, and nutrition for their kids, for their children. SHG creates self-employment opportunity for the women. That is what is making them independent. So self-help groups enjoy a lot of freedom in their functioning. How? They do not need collateral when they are taking a loan from the bank. So they need not show collateral to the bank when they borrow money. And bank do give loan to the SHG groups. Self-help groups create employment opportunity that gives them freedom to work, freedom to carry on their own occupations. And members can take loan from the group, saving themselves from the decided rate of interest because SHGs provide or SHGs members provide each other with the loan at a very, very minimal rate of interest. Section E, these are the case-based questions. The first case is from civics. The Civil Code of 1804, usually known as the Napoleonic Code, did away with all the privileges based on birth, established equality before the law, and secured the right to property. This code was exported to the regions under French control. In the Dutch Republic, in Switzerland, in Italy, and Germany, Napoleon simplified administrative divisions, abolished the feudal system, and freed peasants from serfdom and manorial dues. In the towns, too, guild restrictions were removed, transport and communication system were improved, peasants, artisans, workers, and new businessmen enjoyed a new found freedom. In Western and parts of Central Europe, the growth of industrial production and trade meant the growth of towns and the emergence of commercial classes, whose existence was based on production for the market. Industrialization began in England in the second half of the 18th century, but in France and parts of the German states, it occurred only during the 19th century. In its wake, new social groups came into being, a working class population, middle classes made up of industrialists, businessmen, and professionals. Following the defeat of Napoleon in 1815, European governments were driven by the spirit of conservatism. Conservatives believed that established traditional institutions of state and society, like the monarchy and the church, social hierarchies, property, and the family, should be preserved. Most conservatives, however, did not propose return to the society of pre-revolutionary days. Rather, they realized from the changes initiated by Napoleon that modernization could in fact strengthen traditional institutions like monarchy. Looking at the questions now, what was the core concept of the Napoleonic Code? The Napoleonic Code is also called as the Civil Code of 1804, and the core concept was having equality before law. It also secured the right to property to the citizens. This code abolished feudal system, so it actually freed the peasants from serfdom and manorial dues, and it improved the system of transport and communication. So it's a one marker question. We can mention any 2 points over here. Second question. Who were the new middle class in Europe? So the new middle class were the educated people who were lawyers, teachers, industrialists, traders. These were the new middle classes who had earned certain wealth, so they were financially independent and also educated. Third question. What do you mean by conservatism? So, conservatism is a philosophy that stressed on the importance of tradition, established institutes like the church system, and customs. They preferred gradual development to quick change. They didn't wanted a drastic change, but they wanted the changes to be slow. So the conservatives believe that established traditional institutes like the church system, the monarchical system, were the one that were to be preserved. So they believe that the system of monarchy, church, social hierarchies, property, family, it should be preserved. The core principle of conservatism may vary from region to region, depending on the traditions and practices of the region, but they all opposed modernism. They were not willing to bring about changes in their traditional institutes. Question number 35, the next source. We use different materials and services in our daily life. This is from geography. Some of these are available in our immediate surroundings, while other requirements are met by bringing things from other places. Goods and services do not move from supply locals to demand locals on their own. The movement of these goods and services from their supply locations to demand location necessitates the needs for transport. Some people are engaged in facilitating these movements. These are known to be traders who make the products come to the consumers by transportation. Thus, the pace of development, the pace of development of a country depends upon the production of goods and services as well as their movement over space. Therefore, efficient means of transport are prerequisite for fast development. Looking at the questions first. Question number one. What are the lifelines of our nation and its modern economy? So, surely the lifelines of national economy are the transport and the communication system. Second, name the means of land transport. So, land transport, we have roadways, railways, and pipelines. Third question, how efficient means of transport are prerequisite for fast development? So the pace of development of a country depends upon the production of goods and the services that are provided, including transport. Railways, airways, waterways, newspaper, radio, television, cinema, and internet, they have been contributing to the socio-economic progress of the country. The trades from local to international levels have added the vitality of its economy. It has enriched our life and added substantially to growing amenities and facilities for the comforts of our life. So, as we talk about development, transport is required. An efficient means of transport is required, which is a prerequisite for any particular country for development. You can mention the same from the source that is given, where we are talking about how it efficiently provides services to different sectors like transport and helps in the development. Next source, read the given extract and answer the following question. This source is from Civics Now. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka emerged as an independent country in 1948. The leaders of the Sinhala community sought to secure dominance over government by virtue of their majority. As a result, the democratically elected government adopted a series of majoritarian measures to establish Sinhala supremacy. In 1956, an act was passed to recognize Sinhala as the only official language, thus disregarding Tamil. The Sri Lankan Tamils launched parties and struggles for the recognition of Tamil as an official language, for regional autonomy and equality of opportunity in securing education and jobs. But their demand for more autonomy to provinces populated by the Tamils was repeatedly denied. By 1980s, several political organizations were formed demanding an independent Tamil Elam in northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka. The Belgian leaders took a different path. They recognized the existence of regional differences, cultural diversities also, but between 1970 and 1993, they amended their constitution 4 times so as to work out an arrangement that would enable everyone to live together within the same country. The arrangement they worked out is different from any other country, and it is very innovative too. Looking at the questions, question number one: which act recognizes Sinhala as the only official language? So the Bill of Sinhala, that is 1956 bill, is the one that recognizes it as official language. Who launched parties and struggles for the recognition of Tamil? The Sri Lankan Tamils launched the parties and struggles for the recognition of Tamil as an official language. They also demanded regional autonomy with parties like LTTE, that is Liberation Tigers of Tamil Elam, which demanded a separate Tamil Elam. How many times Belgium amended their constitution? So the Belgian people, they amended their constitution four times between 1970 to 1993. Moving on to section F now, that is the last section of map history, that is 37A. Two places have been marked on the given outline map of India. We are supposed to identify and write the correct name in the line that is drawn on the map. First, a place marked where the Satyagraha movement of farmers took place. So the Satyagraha movement of farmers took place after Gandhiji came to India from South Africa, and this movement was conducted at Kheda in Gujarat. This was by the peasants who were against the revenue because they were facing crop failure. B, the place where Indian National Congress session was held in 1927 and 1927 it was Madras. Let's look at the map and then look at the locations too. So yes, this is A, Kheda, and this is Madras. Now, looking at the geography questions. Ramagundam, which is a thermal power plant, Tarapur, which is atomic power plant, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Airport, and major seaport that is Tuticorin. So, map locations for geography. Ramagundam thermal power plant, Tarapur, which is in Maharashtra, here, Tuticorin port, which is in Tamil Nadu, and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Airport, which is in Kolkata. So these are the map locations which are clearly given on the screen. In geography, you are supposed to attempt any three out of the four map locations that are given. Subhash Chandra Bose is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is an international airport of Kolkata. Ramagundam is the thermal power plant. Tuticorin port is the port in Tamil Nadu, and Tarapur is the atomic power plant in Maharashtra. For geography, we are supposed to locate the and identify these places, whereas in history, we are supposed to simply identify locations will be given to you. Okay.